नमस्ते, मेरा नाम अनुष्का पपोरी है और आज हम देखेंगे कि कैसे हिंदी seal of biliteracy होता है. So, before I begin talking about the test, I'm going to give you a little bit of my background. So, on the Hindi Seal of Biliteracy, I earned an A2 level, which gives you a Hindi Seal of Biliteracy distinguished seal. So at home, I spoke Hindi regularly from an early age. So I picked up Hindi pretty fast. And my mom would often tell me stories from the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, and she would also tell me stories from her childhood. So I got a little bit of a perspective into her life as well as a perspective on Indian culture. Despite knowing all of this, I still didn't know how to read or write in Hindi, so I decided to join Hindi USA to learn more about that. So, as years progressed on, I learned more about how to read and write in Hindi, and so I decided to take the Hindi Seal of Biliteracy test. So let's talk about the test. So there's many different versions of the Hindi Seal of Biliteracy test, but the version that I'm going to be talking about has two portions. First, there's the test portion, and then there's the project portion. So in the test portion, there's two different parts: the listening and speaking part, and the writing and reading part. So for the writing and reading part, you're asked 5 different questions, all that are written in Hindi, and then you have to write an essay for each and every one of them. In this portion, it's really important that you look at your swar and vyanjan and make sure that you're writing them correctly. You also make sure that the grammar in your sentences is written correctly, and instead of writing a period at the end, you're using the line to end all of your sentences. To prepare for this part of the test, you can use many different resources, a lot of which can actually be given to you from Hindi USA. So to prepare, you can use your old Hindi USA homework. You can look at the questions and then you can rewrite the answers on a separate sheet of paper. You can also look up Hindi essay questions online, and you can practice writing a page-long response to each and every one of them in about 20 to 30 minutes. So that's the written and listening portion of the test, but there's also the listening and speaking of the test. So for the listening and speaking, it's similarly 5 questions that are asked to you in Hindi, and you're expected to give a 30 to 45-second response to each and every one of them. Now, I know that can seem really daunting, but if you've done the proper preparation for this, this part of the test can actually be really easy. So to prepare for this test, first start speaking Hindi more regularly. Make sure that when you're speaking Hindi with your parents, you're using a limited amount of English words, because if you do that on the actual test, then you get a big penalty. You'll also practice speaking Hindi in class, and you can also try to improvise speeches on different topics and make them like approximately a minute long, so that when you go on test day, speaking for 30 to 45 seconds on spot doesn't seem too hard. So that's just the test portion, and that portion is graded from an I1 to an A2 level. And to pass the test, you need to get at least I3, with A1 and above giving you a distinguished seal. Now, the next part of this Hindi Seal of Biliteracy is almost as hard as the test part of the Hindi seal. So the project part is a very big part of this test, and it counts as a big grade towards whether you get your Hindi seal or not. So in this project, you are asked to choose a guiding question, and this guiding question can be anything that you want to research when you're comparing American culture to Indian culture. So, for example, my guiding question was how music serves as a unifying force in different cultures, and how it differs and how it's similar. Then, for the guiding question, you're not necessarily asked to cite your sources, but you have to give an in-depth explanation of how your guiding question works in American culture and in Indian culture, do a comparison of them, and then talk about how you personally reflect on the guiding question and what you learned from this process, and how it gave you a deeper understanding of both cultures. The purpose of this part of the Hindi seal is to test whether how you see different cultures from an American perspective, and whether you're able to see the culture also from their own perspective and have a deep understanding of their culture. So for my project, what I did was I had the guiding question about how music serves as a unifying force. And then I talked about the civil rights movement in the United States and how different artists and different genres of music united Black and white people in the civil rights movement. And then in India, I talked a little about the history and how there were different kingdoms in India, causing there to be different cultures, different food, language, and almost a kind of a different country in its own inside India, and how that has created a little bit of division inside India. And so I talked about different music and how it like served to unite those different places and different groups. I talked a lot about A.R. Rahman and his music, and how his music had a wide audience as he combined different cultural elements in his music videos and in his music entirely. So yeah, that was pretty much the project, and the project was a lot of fun to make, and it definitely gave me a pretty deep understanding and a new appreciation of both Indian and American culture. So that's it for the test. I'm sure you're going to do great. Just make sure you prepare every single day, do a little bit every day, and when test day comes, it's going to grow like a breeze. So I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.